Hello, this is Lucas Garritson. I have a few questions here from some people who've forwarded here for this purpose for more information. I'll go ahead and just read the questions and then answer the best I can. My H-1B was approved on 3rd July 2018, and my H-1 started on October 1, 2018. I have changed my job and applied for amendment, but I participated in Day 1 CPT from Jan 1, 18 to 30 September 18. Will I have any problem? If you've already changed status from F1 to H-1B, and the adjudicating officer determined you maintain status, there shouldn't be any issue in the future for your H-1B to show that you maintain status as F1. Now, you'll still need to maintain status as H1, primarily making sure you're not on bench, you've received payroll, that you've filed all amendments as required by the regulations in a timely manner. Is Day 1 CPT illegal? There's some gray area in regards to Day 1 CPT. There's a lot of leeway that's given to universities to schedule and create their curriculum and the way the benefit of the academics is going to impact the student. So in some circumstances, the argument could be made that after you receive a bachelor's or master's, it's important to have real life experience in the field. And some colleges might say we would prefer if you do an internship in this field and come back so you can get more input and learning experience out of the courses. Now, what makes Day 1 CPT an issue would be, what are your intentions whenever you start Day 1 CPT? Are you, after the 1 or 2 semesters on being on CPT, are you going to attend classes, report, do everything that's required as part of the curriculum? That's going to be one of the main factors, and that's part of the gray areas. If you're just using CPT for the purpose of obtaining work authorization without any intention of attending university, then that's probably something that's going to be violating the regulations in that regard. My H-1B is approved in the past. My H-1B is approved, but in the past I enrolled in a double master and took Day 1 CPT. Does that affect my career? As stated before, that's similar to what we said. USCIS already adjudicated your change of status from F1 to H-1B. There shouldn't be any long-lasting effect on your career. This is a good question. What are the options of students who are studying in Cumberland's or Campbellsville University with Day 1 CPT? Is it safe or not? From all the research I've seen and spoken to other students, these universities are legitimate universities, but at the same time, they're operating like businesses more in their focus on the tuition that's coming in. So when these two universities, if they say you need to attend class on this date or you need to participate XYZ, it's highly recommended you follow through with that, because you don't want to take CPT Day 1 and then fail to maintain any type of status where your CVIS could be canceled, and that would put you in a similar situation as the Farmington issue. So while right now maybe it's not the best advice, I know a lot of people who do take that course of action, and just make sure you follow through with what's required in the curriculum. I confirmed there is no online classes or curriculum at Farmington University, so I emailed them on March asking them for classes. They refused to schedule classes, so I looked for another university. Joined in New England College on March 20th, 18, where I did online classes and attended residency classes every semester. That's very good statement, I guess. It's not so much a question. I would say that student has done their homework and understands completely what it means to maintain status and what the requirements are. And it's very important. It's up to each student, and it's their responsibility to make sure that they're adhering to what courses and curriculum are required when joining these CPT or second master's programs. I have my master's from Silicon Valley University. I was not allowed to get STEM extension for my OPT. I had OPT for a year. Then I was asked to enroll into university as my H-1B was filed. Later, my H-1B was not picked, but in meanwhile, I was suggested to join University of Farmington, and I had no idea that there is no course curriculum. I'm already a transfer student from Sacred Heart to SVU. I had no option other than University of Farmington. After I transferred to Farmington, when we asked about the course curriculum, I wasn't given any. In order to transfer me I had no choice but to stay at Farmington, but knowing the fact that I did not apply for OPT in the university, now I just got an internship opportunity with I think, so they're asking if there's any other options than leaving the country by the 5th of Feb. Probably without knowing more details and background, it's probably best for you to leave the country, even though your CVIS might still be valid due to the changing of the universities. But it's probably the best idea to go ahead and leave so you do not accrue any unlawful presence. So once you do go back home, you would be able to hopefully correct all this and return as F1 student if that's what your goal is. Okay, someone's asking here, please explain the cap gap option. Okay, so if you are on OPT, STEM OPT, or whatever, CPT, whatever it might be, if you're picked in the H-1B lottery, most of the time the programs will expire in June, July of the year. You're not permitted to begin working as H-1B until the fiscal year starts on October 1st of that year. So a few years ago, the regulations changed to allow cap gap. Cap gap is where your DSO is going to say that you were picked in the lottery, that you're pending, the start date of October 1st. So between the June-July period all the way up to October 1st, you'll be maintaining status. The problem recently is every year for the past 2 years, USCIS has suspended premium processing, so unfortunately most of the time cases aren't approved until December, Jan, Feb, which causes an issue if you stay here past the October 1st until your petition's approved. So you could experience some unlawful presence in that area. I do want to go over something that I think there's a little bit of uncertainty. Here's a question. Would the voluntary deportation offered by ICE officials come with a ban of 3 or 5 years? Can you ask the ICE agent about the same? Okay, so there's been a lot of discussion with some of the students that are still in custody about which ways they can proceed. There's a few, there's 3 different types of voluntary departure. We can have a pre-adjudicated voluntary departure where if you're outside of custody, you can get up to 120 days before you have to depart the United States. The second would be post, where you have up to 90 days, and that would be after there's a decision on the merits with your case. And the third is voluntary departure under safeguards, where you're still in custody and ICE will transfer you to whatever transportation you might require to go back home. So you'll maintain custody until you get to like the airport, so to speak, and then you'll return home. That's also generally required that you have to pay for your own ticket, and this is usually the fastest method to go through the process. If you do get out on bond, and I want to go over this really clearly to make sure everyone understands. Again, every court, ICE office, through all the territory in the United States, they all have certain procedures and guidelines that they follow. Just as we've heard about the changes where California might challenge certain immigration protocols as far as like a safe harbor, or not wanting to keep all the people detained just because they're here illegally or without status. Other states such as Texas, other states throughout the South, Pennsylvania, they're very strict when it comes to this. They don't want to issue bond until a judge determines if bond is appropriate. So if you're detained in custody of ICE, you're going to be you'll have to go see a judge within a short period of time to hear the case, so you're not detained in jail for long periods of time. That's going to be assigned to a detained docket. Now, if you leave the custody, if you get bond and you leave jail, and let's say that they assigned a court date of March 15th, okay, as soon as you leave out on bond, your case is transferred from the detained docket to non-detained docket. Now, that's going to change judges, attorneys, everything. With such a backlog right now in the immigration court system, it could take up to a couple of years before your case gets reassigned back to that court. This happened. I had a couple of students I assisted from the New Jersey fake school episode where they really didn't have a choice. They were out on bond. They didn't have their passports. They were stuck here, and they just wanted to go home. Problem was we had to track down and really work with some ICE officers here, or ICE attorneys here in Dallas, to just really push and change the protocol that they normally follow to help get these two students back home safely. Sometimes this is what we've been discussing is who has the right to grant voluntary departure, when is voluntary departure appropriate, and what's the difference between the voluntary departure and the order offered by the ICE agents to sign an order of removal. Okay, so order of removal is going to be a piece of paper you sign that's going to say that you've been removed from the United States, similar to what a judge might sign, and you can voluntarily sign this. Now, that's not voluntary departure. Order of removal is going to have a 10-year bar associated with that. So once you return home, you're going to have 10 years before you can reapply to re-enter the United States. Now, there are certain ways maybe you could reopen your case or waiver that you might be able to obtain, but it's typically, for the most part, you have to wait the 10 years. If you select voluntary departure, it's a way of taking your case and administratively closing your case without any record of having any type of removal or deportation for you. So the only issue would be any type of unlawful status you have once you return home. So if you were here for 3 months at Farmington and you take voluntary departure and go home, you would only have 3 months of unlawful presence, which typically would be much better than having a 10-year bar for signing an order of removal. So these are all things that everyone should discuss specifically with their attorney. I do want to remind everyone that everyone's case is very much unique to them. It is, if when events like this occur, there's often a notion of saying to do everything the same as everyone else. It's an attorney's job to always make sure we review the case thoroughly and to make sure that we don't leave any stone unturned for anything that might benefit our client. I always explain to people everyone's case is like a fingerprint. There's no two cases that are the same. There's no two fingerprints in this world that are the same. We might go through similar procedures and processes, but still your case is unique to you, and it's very important to take the time and consult with attorney to make sure we get all the facts and make the proper decisions before any decisions made.